Welcome, welcome participants, and we're really excited and honored to be talking about a remarkable artist who's we have the privilege to know. This is an energy and a talent that I know he's still with us. And welcome to Chuck Ramirez Metaphorical Portraits. And Chuck, I'm not going to tell you about Chuck because we have two power women that are going to tell you all about Chuck Ramirez, but it was an honor and a privilege to know him, and he's still with us, and his work is more topical than ever, which we'll find out. And first we want to welcome Patricia Ruiz-Healy of Ruiz-Healy Art. And this is a remarkable woman. You can read her bio in great detail, but I want to tell you what's unique about Patricia are, really three things that are very, very unique. Well, Patricia has her PhD in art history. That is not an easy accomplishment. She has a book after her dissertation, Matthias Goeritz, who's a fascinating artist, leader in the Mexican art avant-garde that combines sculpture and architecture, just really amazing work. And Patricia has been devoting her life for the past 16 years to really representing so many of the Texas artists, the Latinx, the Latin American artists, and this is a heroic undertaking. And she's been doing it from San Antonio, and now she's doing it in New York. And here again, she is taking artists that are Texas artists, and she's taking them to New York. She's made a commitment. She has a gallery space there. It's in the middle of the Upper East Side, and that's where she's speaking to us today. And then Patricia has been very interwoven in the San Antonio community, numerous board services. Now she is on the Art Pace board and leading that as the chairman. And I can say, from going to a recent discotheque Art Pace Gala, I guess it was last year, it's been wildly successful, and you have the great energy that was begun by Linda Pace. And then I'm going to welcome a woman, a friend, our dear Cynthia, who I don't even know what to say about Cynthia. Cynthia is always the yes person. You call Cynthia if it's about an artist, if it's about doing something at her home, there's a big yes. And I ran across our invitation recently in 2002 when you hosted the book party where we started to announce Texas Artists Today. And Cynthia, you're always yes, and you're an accomplished attorney. You're in the big world of insurance. I wasn't probably supposed to say that, but you're doing all that. You got a big day job, and then you're supporting the Texas artists. I worked with you. You led the Art Lives board. I always think of you as the core committee. Not only were you so involved, the chair of the core committee, but you stepped out. You early collected some very wild avant-garde art, and people are wondering, wow, I should have gotten a Julie Meritor years ago, and you were her kind of godmother in the core program, and Leandro Ehrlich, and I just really admire so much of what you've done. And you've also been the leader bringing San Antonio and Houston together, living in San Antonio for over a decade, getting the McNay Contemporaries started, being on the Art Pace board, an emeritus member now, and now you're doing all your board projects in Houston. I was like, wow, you're just on the HAA board, involved with Gulf Coast, and with the Rice Design Alliance, everything you've done. And then you and Lester Marks are my favorite collectors. You don't need to get art advisors involved, not that they're not great, but you can go to Commerce Street, see something you like. You don't need to see the resume. You're going to take that piece home with you. So anyway, without further ado, let's begin and let's talk about Chuck Ramirez. So Patricia, you and Cynthia have collaborated on some amazing images, and I know that everyone that's on the call will want to be able to see. So let's begin with Chuck, and here's Chuck. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Patricia.
Thank you, Catherine, and thank you, Culture Place, for allowing us this opportunity to share the amazing work of this incredible soul, this incredible artist that his life was cut short almost 10 years ago. That is really what it's just amazing how in 15 years he created this incredible body of work. So his first solo show, sorry. Oh, sorry. What's happened? 1 second. Wait, sorry.
It worked a moment ago.
I know. Maybe it's this one. Hold on. I need to do this.
There we go.
There.
Slideshow. Okay, so, okay, his first solo show was back in 1995. It was called Dust Collection and Other Chocolates. And the show presented a collection of toys, trinkets, and figurines, and uncomposed photographs of such objects. The artist continued using photography as his primary medium, and the use of a sharp, focused image of an object isolated at the center of a white, shadowless ground, a format he continued to use throughout his career. And this is another example of that.
I love this, and the images, and then talk about, Chuck's day job, which was, really kind of interesting what he did during the day.
Yes, for 14 years, he was a graphic designer for HEB. And so he kind of learned a lot of his, he mined his graphic skills doing all these photographs of products. But it's really amazing how he kind of switched that. I mean, he used those skills, right? And took very everyday objects and make them into high culture by the way he photographed them. So his objects investigate objects of everyday life and are charged with metaphors of identity, gender, desire, and conception. Ramirez's work is characterized by restraining style and subject. So for example, here, we just see the little bunny and nothing else. So also in 1995, he did this installation of Christmas trees. It was a series of slim netted Christmas trees, like the subject of his photography. There were 7 freestanding trees, and they also feature everyday items. So the everyday was something that he started on and continued throughout his career. And Cynthia, would you like to share with us the story behind the Christmas trees that you commissioned Chuck with?
Sure. And let me also thank you for the image, Patricia. I want to say a couple of things first, and that is, Chuck was a very important person to me, a friend, and I collected his work. I'm not, though, a scholar or an art historian, but I have wonderful stories about him. I hope they're true. They are to the best of my knowledge, and those of you who might know him better will forgive me, I hope. In the spirit of art is a lie through which we know the truth. So whatever my stories are, I'm just trying to get at the truth about Chuck. And I also took great inspiration from reading Ida Gaunt's master's thesis from the University of Houston School of Art on Chuck, and the beautiful McNay catalog on his solo show, and also Patricia's catalog. I just want to say those things, and I hope I don't
Important, yes. No, this is great.
I'm holding this up, and the one
that
Patricia organized and everything.
Oh, yes, thank you.
And this, and then the one from the McNay, which you've been so involved with the McNay, but we'll get to what's next for him. But you take it away. Is this your porch in San Antonio?
That is my outdoor sleeping porch in San Antonio, and I moved there in 2000. I heard that Chuck had done these Christmas trees at Art Pace, and I knew that I wanted some. I had been lugging around my Barbie doll collection and my horses and men, little television personality horses and men. So I commissioned Chuck to do a Barbie tree and a horses and men tree that he called Lauren Green.
Oh.
And the whole thing about these trees, and these get to a couple of things. One, we think of Chuck as a photographer, but he was really a conceptual artist.
Yes.
And he was also he decorated. But these trees started when he saw men unloading Christmas trees into a Christmas tree lot, and they were all bound and gagged, you know, like they had been abducted. And it sort of like gave him this sort of bondage, you know, domination thought, you know. And
wow.
so here's this innocent Christmas tree. And the other thing, though, besides the bondage idea, was they reminded him, when they were wrapped up like that, of gigantic Indian, Native American, smudge sticks. Those bundles of herbs and grasses that are bound and burn to light slowly and give off healing smoke.
I've got a smudge stick here at Paper City, a small one.
Oh my God, okay.
Yeah.
So here's this innocent tree that sort of recalls his white bread, white boy, you know, upbringing, but it has these kind of nasty, this kind of nasty backstory as well. And so, anyway, I just thought the trees were amazing. And the first one that you showed, Patricia, the red one, was just something he threw in because he saw some things at Garden Ridge Pottery he really liked. So he made me a NASCAR tree, which I didn't ask for.
A
but
NASCAR
that's what this
tree?
Is. Yes. But he was very generous like that, just to throw another one in, you know. So I think that's kind of what I wanted to say about the trees.
Okay, great. No, this is wonderful stories. So this is of course the presentation of the Christmas trees that were for the first time shown, you know, after Art Base. They were shown at the incredible survey that the McNair Art Museum organized for Chuck's works under the leadership of Renee Bayerio. They did an incredible job. They did a beautiful publication. I mean, I just wish the show had traveled. But maybe that's something.
Well,
that's the next project. That's the next project.
Talk about this at the, you know, later in the conversation. What's next for that? Wow.
So then where, you know, Chuck, as you know, was lived and raised in San Antonio, and he used to live on these bungalows, houses in a series of houses that, Cynthia, maybe you can talk a little bit more about this because you used to spend a lot of evenings in this magical place in Southtown that is called The Compound.
Yes, this is a little collection of houses owned by Michael Casey, the unofficial mayor of King William, who many artists rented, and they shared this communal backyard. It was called The Compound. Chuck reversed his orientation of his house. The entrance to Chuck's house was onto the compound and back. I guess you might say that was taken from the idea of the Spanish courtyard. And this is, you know, he would serve meals for 20 with his very famous broken charred china, you know, dinner set. It was a dining service for 20 of broken china that was just hilarious and wonderful. And Nate Cassie was quoted as saying, more people have been through Chuck's kitchen than have been through any arts institution in San Antonio.
I love it.
So I was a little different. I was a corporate lawyer, but I could wander over there at night and pick my way through the bushes and sit down with, you know, the artists. And it was a great education, and they were so welcoming, and I'll never forget how generous Chuck was.
Okay, now we'd like to kind of bring the two biggest inspirations for Chuck's work. It was his Mexican heritage through his grandmother, and then his Anglo upbringing. His mom is American, so he really grew up in an Anglo environment because his parents were divorced when he was very young. And that's, I feel like this is like, that's how he produced this incredible work that is called Santos. The Santos series, the Brady, Brady Bunch, because that was Chuck's favorite TV show. And I think, you know, the more I think about it, what a brilliant way to combine his two loves, right? His Hispanic, Mexican heritage, and with his Anglo upbringing watching TV. So they are very large works. each one is 29 by 30. So the grid is 78 by 120. It's an impressive wall. And they show like this, like in a grid, like on the Brady Bunch. And each one is Spanishized. So for example, this one is called Santa Marcia, for one of the famous Brady Bunch characters. So this work, the Santos, was kind of his more serious, and he started to get to, a lot of curators started to get his work through this series back in 1996. From here, we go to coconuts.
Okay.
Yes.
Can I say something about Santos?
Sure.
Santos, to me, also, and I don't know if you said it, Patricia, these objects, which look like jewels, are the bottom of just a broken Santos merchandise from the Infinito Botanica that Franco Mondini did, and that he and Chuck lived over. And Franco had an amazing quote about how Chuck, in trying to, I guess, reconcile the Catholic, the Mexicanness he referred to, and the Anglo, Franco had this priceless description. The statuettes were found at the Botanica on South Flores Street. Franco recalls watching Ramirez rummaging through the store to find the saint statues. I remember Chuck eyeing the dusty, candlelit damaged, sometimes one-eyed, crumbling objects. He turned them from side to side and searched for meaning and found it on the underside. And so, like you said, Patricia, this is the sort of Hollywood squares of the Brady Bunch intro. And each of these Santos corresponds to a Brady Bunch youngster or the parent.
Exactly. Perfect. This is
very clear. Now, where was the series shown? Where is it? Was this at Art?
Well, they were first shown at a very important show in San Antonio. It was called Synthesis and Subversion, organized and curated by Frank Colpett, who's now the dean of the school in TCU, of the School of Art History. And then they were shown in a lot of shows. The last one was at the Contemporary Art Museum in Houston, actually, organized by Dean D'Aderico. It was called Straight from San Antonio. It was like 2 years ago.
Okay.
So they of course they were included in the McNay show. It's a big reference of his work. These 9 pieces. Then briefly, let's talk about Coconut. That's a very important work also in 1997. And this work traveled to Spain, traveled to all over the United States, because in a very conceptual way, he was dealing with being, he was both. He was a Mexican American and an Anglo. And he was very smart about skewering this work.
Patricia?
So this is, yes.
I'm sorry. I would like to say something about his photographic technique when you're finished with this slide.
Sure. Yes. Absolutely. You can go ahead.
Okay. To me, this brings up. I'm sorry. There's something on my screen. I think of Chuck's photography as a conceptual piece more than a photograph. To me, it is. Chuck is, you can take the little boy out of the grocery store, but you can't take the grocery store out of the little boy. He grew up around food with his abuela. I'm sure looking through grocery flyers with the meat and the broccoli. And I just think these photos, whether he meant to or it was subconscious or maybe it's just me, but to me, it's a grocery flyer aesthetic taken to this enormously, high technical level of vision. Turning these into like forensic objects almost. But I think it was a perfect marriage of his growing up with food, growing up cooking, working at HEB, and then finding his way into the art world and using objects as metaphors, as we were talking about.
And
Yes,
you know, these are still unique. Now, they don't remind me of anyone else's work, right? I mean, there's nobody else that I think they're in that vein, or when you see this, you recognize it immediately. That's Chuck's work, and you know, really an innovator. And you just think of it as an artwork. You don't really think of it as a photo in a strange way, right? I mean, it's what you said.
Right.
Because his brilliance was to kind of abstract an important concept. So the coconuts were produced kind of in a response to the synthesis and subversion show that I just briefly talked about it with the Santos, because it was like an uproar in San Antonio, and especially with the Chicano artists. It was a show that was criticized by them because saying, how come you're doing this? This is like a totally different direction. But, you know, Chuck and Franco and Alejandro Diaz were another generation. They didn't have to do what they were doing, the Chicano or the previous generation. Mm. So and this was like a clear affirmation of that, like saying, you know, and it still show his roots, but in a very sophisticated way. So I think what I feel about Chuck, the importance of the Chuck's work is that he was able to distill to abstract important concepts and show them, you know, put it on the forefront. And some people will get it and some people didn't get it. So, but that's—
Patricia, for those who might not know, did you explain the meaning of coconut in the community?
Yes, coconut is a slur for saying that you're brown outside, but you're really white inside. That's, and that's, it's kind of, it's the same concept of as an Oreo that you know, has been used before. But, you know, this is 1997, so it's, you know, more than 20 years ago, 23 years ago. So it's, and this was actually a solo show that Chuck did at Sala Diaz. Mm. So now, you know, we only see the 3 works, but these were done, you know, they were done at 48 by 48 each one, very large. And then he had other things on the show. So, I mean, we can do a conversation just about the coconuts. I mean, because it's a very rich, very important show.
And you know, we're having this dialogue. It's not still the dialogue. It's still this dialogue about someone that's Mexican, or they, you know, the whole thing. It's just, what is this? I mean, you know, you'd think, and then this is, I don't know, it's just in the middle of everything still.
Yes, still.
Well, another thing about those coconuts, Patricia, and I think you got into it with the show that caused so much consternation in the Chicano art community. I think that the stereotype, you know, explanation I got was that the feeling was, you know, you're Chicano, you need to be making art, you need to be making a statement, you need to be advancing the social agenda. And to me, was this work evidences, I mean, Chuck, he was into self-exploration. What is my identity? I'm not white, really. I'm not, you know, Chicano. I'm not sure I'm an artist. I'm a graphic designer. You know, I'm a homosexual. Am I okay? Just all these things. He felt so outsider from so many different standpoints, but yet he was everybody's best friend. So.
Oh yes.
You know, just a paradox, as you said, the person that's the host and everyone gathers around them, you know, and I guess maybe that's how you're no longer an outsider. You're no longer an outsider when you invite everyone in. You're the host, right?
Hey, that's right.
Yeah.
I like that.
Let's see here. So with solution, and I want to just say also thanks to Trish Ramirez, Chuck's sister. We had worked together, you know, keeping the legacy of Chuck alive, and this is his late father, passed away a couple of years ago, and her mother, stepmother, in this picture. I just want to acknowledge them because they're important. I don't think I wouldn't have represented the state if I hadn't had complete commitment from them. And that's going to be almost 10 years. And it has been a great partnership in the sense that they felt like Chuck's work needs to be seen and it needs to be alive. And that's what we're trying to do.
That's so important because, you know, what happens with an artist estate, and then you have kept him front and center. And so thank you. And
oh my gosh, thank you.
So excited Cynthia's here today, and you were the two people. When I think of Chuck, I think of you, and then we're getting more people kind of commenting from online too. Veronica Roberts, Marcus, Trish, you know,
Trish Marcus,
to keep Chuck alive.
Exactly. So I'm glad Veronica is there because I might have to skip or go faster with the slides because because for time constraints. This briefly, the trash bags, trash series, installation shot. The Long-Term Survivor, that is an amazing show. Our page has a very nice archival information about this presentation done at the Hudson Showroom in our page back in 1999. It was included also in the McNay. So, you know, please, scholars, curators out there, there is so much material, and the gallery, I'm also proud of the gallery has a very good archive of his work. He has his own tab on my website. Is a tab up above says Chuck Ramirez, and every series has, I try to have an essay written by somebody, like Franco wrote about Santos, for example. That's on the website.
Well, and that is his cocktail. Long-Term
Yes.
Survivor is he was HIV positive, so that was the cocktail that kept him alive, depicted in the pill container.
On the pill box, exactly. And then in 2000, 20 years ago, he created this body of work called Quarantine Series. What a familiar name now, right? And I'm just gonna show some installation shots of the series. There are 7 of them, close up. And so that's the last one. And then in 2002, he got the residency. He was the curator, Jerome Sanz, who was director at that time of the Palais de Tokyo in Paris, selected Chuck. And that was a big break for Chuck's work, to be able to have this residency, to be able to have a stipend, to be able to have a very generous production budget. It really made his work, you know, more important.
And
This
to
is
be shown with an international artist and a national artist. It's interesting.
yes.
We're getting comments, you know, Annette Carlozzi is with us, you know.
Oh, amazing.
Writing in, she's excited to be here. And then, of course, Marcus, Chuck's brother. And so this is all.
Sister, Trish Marcos' sister. That's a sister.
Oh, Russ, okay. Oh,
Okay.
right, yes.
Trish.
Trish, and then I see, Trish Marcus. Okay, that's Trish who we met. And then I'm going to ask if anyone that's joining us would like to have a question for Patricia, for Cynthia. You know, they'd love to, you know, answer that. Yeah. And thank you for being here, Trish, and joining us. Yeah.
So this is what's created during his residency, the Candy Tray series that then got developed even more. But during his residency, he did Godiva 1 and 2, and then he did the Water Cup. The amazing Water Cup, of course, from the Whataburger, that was acquired by the Blanton Museum of Art in 2019. Very important acquisition for the state because of the recognition of his work. And of course, this is like an epitaph of Chuck: "When I'm empty, please dispose of me properly." Yes,
right. And this is a monumental image, as we were discussing. What is it? 72 inches.
It's 72 inches, 72 by 48, 72 inches high, 48 inches wide.
And I think I showed y'all. Did I show y'all my cup? We all have these.
Oh, this is.
So I want to say something too about the cups and the candy wrappers, Patricia. You know, it's another example of the juxtaposition of dignifying the discarded. I think Ida Gaunt wrote, you know, this is like a precious coffered ceiling in Venice.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it just looks absolutely luscious. It looks very sexy too, but he is giving dignity to these things we throw away. You know, the wilted flowers that are left in the corridor of the hospital after somebody dies, the water cup that we throw away, these beautiful candy wrappers. So, you know, it's a juxtaposition of the common everyday, the discarded, and elevating it.
Yes. So regarding the candy tray, Victor Zamudio Taylor, the late Victor Zamudio Taylor, who took Chuck to a lot of important shows around the world, he used to call, and he came up with the title for the Blue Star show that I did in 2011, Minimally Baroque. And that I think is a very appropriate name because Chuck he had like a neo-Baroque aesthetic in a very conceptual way, in a very sophisticated way, because Victor rightly used to say that this was almost like a beautiful gold altarpiece that you see in a lot of churches in Mexico. You know, everywhere there is colonial times, right? So the neo-Baroque aesthetic is something that needs to be investigated even more.
This is interesting. Now we have a question from Arnett Carlozzi, who's was the head curator of the Blanton Extraordinary Art Historian, such a supporter, and Annette also did the original 50 Texas Artists book. So her question is, did any of you ever speak with Chuck about his attitudes towards Warhol, how they may have developed as his participation in the art world got, you know, more intense and was, you know, seen more on the international platform? I'm going to ask Patricia.
Cynthia, did you talk to
No, but that's such a great question, Annette. You're so right. The seriality of it, the consumerism fetish. It's the desire, you know, embodied in these. It's all there. So I wish I had. Thank you for bringing that up.
It's a great question, and I think Chuck was in a way a combination of pop, you know, Warholian, and also with minimalist. Because the grid, remember, comes from minimalism, comes from Judd. So I think Chuck generation was influenced by Donald Judd quite a bit, and by Warhol. I think those are probably the two giants in Chuck's work, in a way. Well, and I think there is a good essay. There is on the essay for the Bacnay. I don't remember if it was Eddie Hayes or Elizabeth Ferrer that bring Warhol to the conversation. I just don't have it. I don't know by heart, but I can share it with you, Annette. I'm happy to share those articles. No, they're not articles, they're essays.
Well, and Art Pace gave him personal exposure to so many artists, and I'm sure he entertained them in his home and curators, you know, Maurizio Catalan, Robert Storr, the curator. I mean, Felix Gonzalez Torres was, of course, already dead, but that was in the first Art Pace show, and I think that really probably hit
Yes.
Chuck.
Yes.
Well, it's interesting, and who were the other artists that were a residency with him? I didn't look it up. The international one and the national.
I looked it up, and I don't know. I didn't investigate further. They didn't ring a bell. I am sorry. I should know more. But just by the names, I couldn't recognize them.
Yeah, and then Veronica Roberts, the head curator at the Blanton. Cynthia, loves your point about dignifying the discarded. Seems to apt and interesting to consider, you know, with Chuck's identity as a queer man of color. I mean, you know, these are all. Yes. And also, you know, we're talking about these ideas now in 2020. This was back in the 90s. Where people were, you know, Chuck was talking about this. You know, I think people were that Art Pace show was the erotic show. I mean, it was shocking, right?
Yes, the long-term survivor one. Yes, absolutely. Because he was one of the first. He was one of the first artists to kind of confront his HIV as a Latino man. I mean, remember that well, we can go into the big discussion here, but he was, you know, after David Heron in New York and other artists in New York, he, you know, he was after a few years later. But that was a very brave show for Chuck to do, you know, where he showcased the leather shops, and there is a video, the video work of Chuck has not been studied as well. I mean, there is a lot of things that they need to be further, you know, there needs to be more scholarship. Yes,
there was video work at all.
No, yes, there are several video works. One with Nick Cassie.
Oh,
yes,
I didn't know. I just looked up that so Art Pace has, I think, 3 residencies a year. Each residency has a Texas artist, a national artist, and an international. That might be slightly tweaked and updated, but anyway, Candace Brights, I think, very famous artist, was the national, and then, I'm sorry, I lost it. Sarasi Pusol Wang from Bangkok. He did Minimal Factory, and I wonder if that was that piece Linda had of that beautiful photograph with the plastic fruit stuck on it. I wonder if that was he. Anyway, interesting group.
And everyone, it just came together. I mean, they were such, you know, hung out. I mean, I'm guessing a lot of the international people gathered at Chuck's compound, right? I mean, you were,
yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And these are installation shots of the Magnay. During the survey, they replicated exactly the dimensions of the residence space in Art Pace. They did it at the Magnay, and that was so important for younger artists to see. I believe this has been the most visited show at the Magnay ever.
Really?
Well, up to the time when this show happened, like a few months later, that's what Renee and Rich told me. It was so visited, it was very popular, and people will come several times, not just one, because they did an incredible job also with the wall labels. It was something that you can study and learn, and etc. So this, you know, he continued with the Candid Trade. This is, for example, 2005. This is the Piñata series that came afterwards. This is Ethel for Ethel Chipton, one of Chuck's best friends, sister. I mean, Ethel actually took a lot of photographs of Chuck that are included in this slideshow. This was acquired by the Museo del Barrio. We placed this about 4 years ago. They didn't have his work. They have 2 now. 2 piñatas, installation shots of piñatas. That's Chuck, you know, in his kitchen, taking a photograph of the fruit. But, you know, that's kind of the way he liked to photograph, you know, up above, overhead.
I loved his collection of Goya bean cans. Can you go back, Patricia?
Yes, yes.
Yes, that was sort of a little bit of the Infinito Botanica brought to his kitchen. Those Goya black bean cans, you know, just priceless.
I mean, were they always there, or did he always? It looks like if he used a couple, he'd replenish it. Were they always like that on that wall?
They were always like that.
Always like that. Yeah. Yes. It was like an installation.
And this kitchen was so small. There was a table in the center, like a butcher block table. So there was literally no room in the kitchen, which made it all the more important to get yourself in there.
I love it. And
I have another picture
from Juan Villa. I've seen many of these images. I'm learning here how intimate these objects were in Chuck's life. They created a visual journal.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's Chuck again in his kitchen. Another view. And photos. Okay. Go back. And then, but this kind of, you know, reflects how he goes into doing his other very celebrated series, the 7-day series. And this is Breakfast Tacos. The Smithsonian acquired back in 2012. So what this was this was the first museum show acquiring his work after his death. So that was very important for the state. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 7 days, there's 7 meals, but this, folks, is the minimalist image of this series. Believe it or not.
Well, I have two in this. I have two in this presentation: the breakfast tacos, and then I have this is a Super Bowl at Lloyd's. So the celebration of the Super Bowl at the home of Loyal Walsh, his friend Loyal Walsh of San Antonio.
Lloyd Walsh, the painter. Yeah, I love that.
Yes, yes.
And this is so exuberant. Now I see what you mean is about the other being minimalist.
Yes, so he will, I mean, there is like a two columns of his work, the structure where you have like, you know, the piñatas, the candy tray is very, you know, the white background, blank background. And then you have this kind of textural where the image goes all the way. No white background, no matte, nothing, just all the way out. And then I think that what is important also is to talk about the influence of his trips and the influence of his friendships. He had different groups of friends. It was, and they all love him. I mean, from different lives and different sectors and whatnot. But I think this is a beautiful picture. I see Rick Liberto, I see Chris Hill, Lori Dunlop, Rudy Choperena, Pat and Pat's mothers, Chuck with a red. Sorry.
I'm sorry, I keep interrupting you. No. I just want to say that the picture in Venice, I mean, you're looking at the patron class of San Antonio. You're looking at the major art philanthropists in the city. And San Antonio was so great to me because it didn't matter what your background was, your socioeconomic level. Everybody could mix together and everybody brought a richness. You know, nobody was ashamed to have you in their home. I mean, it was just, you know, it was a great sort of symbiotic place to be. So this picture reminds me of that.
Yes.
Were you on this trip, Cynthia?
I wish I had been.
Otherwise, you'd be there right here. It just, no, you get that energy, and it's definitely.
You know, from these kind of trips, he developed. This is Chuck in Rome. I don't know who took this picture, but it says Chuck in Rome. So that was probably the same trip when they went to Venice. They went to France several times. They did about five trips together. That group. That's a specific group with Chuck. At least five trips. And then, so in Rome, he took a lot of photographs, and this is, of course, the Colosseum, and he developed a series of work called words for palabras, or words, and where he will superimpose some text. So we have a ruin just for, as an example, and then we have another example called Villa.
Oh, wow.
So back in 2017, I did a show only of his works series in San Antonio, in my gallery in San Antonio, because I wanted, part of my commitment to the state is to showcase work that has not been seen in its entirety. So I did, while the show was at the Magnet, where they have a lot of different series, I wanted to concentrate only on the words. And I did a beautiful catalog
I mean, the words, and you know, this is a body of work I've never heard of or seen, and this is amazing. Wow.
This is 2004, and then we go to, then in 2005, he did, of course, portraits, and this is, he will call it something, and then parentheses for the person the bag was from. So this is MFA Houston, Cynthia in parentheses for Cynthia Toles. Cynthia, you want to talk a little bit about this? How this come along?
Yes, well, he let me curate my bag just a little bit. But yeah, he did these portraits, and he masked anything that would identify the owner. So, you know, that was very clever, I thought. But like that little cork, I used to carry that around because that was a really good rosé, and I wanted to see if I could ever find it again. But can you go to the next one? I want to make a point about these. See how they're oriented? Do you have any more purses? Patricia?
I only have 2 in this presentation.
Okay. Well, all the purses, you know, they're so innocent. They're for ladies, you know.
Take it back. Take it back. I have 3.
And okay. So mine, as you can see, is horizontal. I'm not sure why I did that. All the others are these vertical images. And to me, they're very, oh, what's the word? You know, they remind you of something, you know.
Yes. Something feminine.
You know, sexual.
Yes.
They remind you of something sexual. So, you know, A, they're very innocent and about consumerism, but B, you know, they had this other kind of double meaning, which is a kind of a pun, I guess.
Yes.
So I guess I'm glad mine was side by side.
Okay. So, and then while he was doing his series, he will do things like this. Like, this is the sweetest one. It was not part of a series. It was just one, and he did edition of 10. He was very, very like organized on his series. Like, he will do, for example, on the small size, he will usually do 6, and then 3 on the large size. So, like, for example, this is the 60 tall by 48 is edition of 3, and then the small ones, 24 by 30, is edition of 6. But in this case, he only did 1 is edition of 10, no small or no large. This is like more personable size. But you know, talking a little bit about his being homosexual, there is one in every crowd, so beautiful. And then this is, he was in 2008, he was commissioned by the San Antonio airport to do a series of photographs of imaginary travelers. And it's called Lost and Found series. And they were recently, like 3 years ago, redone because they were in very bad shape. And they're beautiful. They greet you when you arrive in San Antonio in Terminal 2.
I mean, these are fascinating to look at now. There's a story, Cynthia. This is your life.
That's my suitcase, but I hope I'm not a granny. But
no, this was actually I read that this was actually named for his mother, who used to love to go to Vegas.
Okay.
But the suitcase came from you, like you just said.
But those aren't your objects in there, then.
No, but the hat case is that's Lori Dunlap's and my makeup and brushes.
Oh, wow.
That's the fashionista, I think. So I got this hat box when I graduated from high school, along with the rest of the luggage set. And he just fell in love with it. Chuck did stay with me quite a few times, and he rummaged around. I keep luggage. I can't throw away luggage. I store dolls and things like that. But he took a liking to those two, so he used them. I was very happy. And Patricia, I acquired the image. It's almost life size.
Yes,
from your
40,
gallery.
it's 40 by 32. So this is the makeup artist, that's how he called it. And then this is the retro from the same series that was acquired by the Paris Art Museum in Miami about 4 years ago. Mm-hmm. And then I thought I had fashionista, but I guess I don't.
And then we have, Trish writes in, the suitcase with toys are all the toys from his nephews. And Libby Tilly is commenting about the fashionista. Different, yeah.
Yes, the fashionista, it didn't make it to the. We have 75 slides here, so I wish I was able to put everything, but it will be like a weekend seminar to go through all the slides. But yeah, the fashionista is, it was a very big collaboration between Chuck and Libby Tilly, the amazing Libby Tilly.
Oh, wow. So I know her name is, she's a big, supporter, and it's really great to everyone. Well, I think we're going to, I don't know, I feel like this is the beginning of another like project. So what do we need to do? What is next for Chuck? What are our big ideas? What can we happen? We've got supporters, museum voices on the line here. What can we do next for him? What do you think, Patricia, Cynthia, what would you like to happen for Chuck's legacy after this?
Well, I don't know. This is not an art show, but like we were talking about the other day and sort of preparing for this, it would be so nice to have some kind of event, albeit in the pandemic, you know, in the spirit of Chuck, to try to bring people together. And it would involve cooking and community. And I hope that someday we get to have an event like that again and remember Chuck.
As we talked about what he would do, and that is really needed now. You know, it's needed, and you know, post-election, it will really be needed.
Yeah.
Yes, I think I can help Casa Chuck and Untitled Chapter, who's the chair board of Sala Diaz and Casa Chuck, to organize something next year when we can congregate, and it can be a fundraiser for Sala Diaz Casa Chuck, because his apartment where he used to live was generously given by Mike Casey. So that the family of Chuck also very generously left everything that Chuck used to have in his apartment. So curators, writers that apply to this residency can stay there. And it is very successful, and something that we need to, you know, help so more people get to know about.
Is that it in his compound?
Yes.
Yes.
So
well, this is always going to be available for a creative person, an artist?
Yes. For example, when Dean Daderko was visiting San Antonio, while he was organizing the show straight from San Antonio, and I believe 2 years ago, he stayed at Casa Chuck. So that was facilitated, and that's how he, you know, did a lot of his visits and got to know more people in San Antonio, and a lot of writers. I mean, I can ask Ethel and Anjali to send you who else has been there, because it's a very important organization that needs to be.
And then does that raise money for the Casa Chuck? You would that, or to
yes, well, it would be for both. I mean, I think because Chuck was also, you know, he was like in charge of Sala Diaz for so many years. So Sala Diaz is in the front, and his place where he used to live was on the back.
This is so interesting. Now, Libby's writing in, thank you for doing this. Let's do the long table of love in Chuck's backyard like old times. And then she said Mark Dion stayed there when he did research for his epic, you know, had stayed at Casa Chuck with his epic Amon Carter show, which is really, really interesting.
Oh, fabulous.
Well,
wow.
You know, there's something about having this idea where it's brought to a space, something outdoors, and it's brought to the source. It's just a really wonderful, wonderful idea. This dinner, you know, dinner party. And let's see here. Oh, the question from Mike Chesser. Oh, he's about Chuck's works. He sees the publications, but I mean, I think Mike's question is great, and we wanted to talk about that. What is next in terms of a publication? And then we'll go ahead and just wrap with parting thoughts from Cynthia and Patricia. What will there be another catalog? I know you said you're working on something that's coming out soon, Patricia. So what can we do a book on Chuck? I mean, yes. And what is your catalog coming out? Yeah.
Well, I'm doing a catalog for my November show next month, where I'm going to present the quarantine. Somebody's writing an essay about what is Chuck now, or how people, artists, are still influenced by his work. But my big goal, my big goal will be to do a catalog raisonné and include all the different series that he did. That's my long-term project. Something that I can see happening in between 5 and 10 years.
Well,
it's a huge project.
Let's make a fundraiser for this, and I'm sure UT would want to publish that. I mean, I just think, and sometimes it might be nice to get the community involved. People would want to donate and see that, you know, and I'm sure University Press will step up. And then Celia, you know, thank you. And Carlos Moreno, this was an inspiring conversation. He's writing his final art history thesis at UT this year on Chuck Ramirez and hope to share it with you all soon. And then Cynthia Toles, thank you, Patricia, for inspiring us once again with Chuck's work. And I really am inspired by you both and these stories, but the catalog raisonné, yes. And then the gathering at his place. I mean,
I think the gathering is something that needs to happen, you know, once we have a vaccination, hopefully next year, maybe a year from now, because this November is going to be 10 years that he passed away. But of course, we cannot congregate this year. But I think in the spirit of Chuck and in the spirit of his generosity for everyone, I think we should do something very large, amazing next year.
Well, we want to be part of this, and I know Culture Place will want to be part of this and getting the word out and making it really special, and the magazine would be honored to be part of it, PaperCity. So, you know,
Yes.
this will, so parting, not exactly goodbye words till we see each other again. What, Cynthia, I'll let you sign off, and then Patricia.
Thank you, Catherine. I'd like to read something that Lori Dunlap wrote. Chuck Hill Snyder did a collection of remembrances for Glass Tire in 2011, and some of us contributed to that. But Lori Dunlap said, "I will never forget the lessons Chuck taught me. To love where you are and who you are with completely, to embrace the moment as if there's no tomorrow, and to see beauty in the everyday and the commonplace." We should all remember this.
Agreed. I want to thank you, Catherine and Cynthia. This has been a roller coaster of emotions at the same time here, preparing for the slideshow. And I want to thank Culture Place for putting us together and celebrate Chuck's work. And I feel very inspired to do more and more for his work.
And
Thank you all.
will do it, and we'll all be there in San Antonio, God willing, in a year. For
All right. Thank you.
Bye, Chuck. Goodbye, Chuck.
Bye.